Do you know what your partner's up to when you're away and they're all alone?
No, what?
They're listening to the Screw podcast, of course.
What's that?
Sit back, relax, and listen.
You're an orgasm addict. You're an orgasm addict. Sneaking in the back door with dirty magazines. So your mother wants to know what all the stains on the jeans. And you're an orgasm addict.
No, you don't have to do that anymore.
I'm almost 40. I've been doing this for 8 years, and I still don't understand how to do
I know.
it.
Well, sometimes we up our tech here or catch up with the times.
If it wasn't for you, this would not exist. Anyways, thanks for tuning into the Screw podcast. We're back from a small hiatus because Aaron and I have new things we were doing. So we had a little hiatus, but we're back.
We're back with a vengeance. Ha 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 ha.
And I think I'm using my microphone better now, so we'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, that's amazing.
promises.
Well, I'm here for it. I've been looking forward to it. Did you just pull that out of your tits?
Yeah, so
I've always been jealous of that.
my vape needed to be warmed up because the juice wasn't juicing.
Oh my god! So if I put my vape between my butt cheeks, it'll
yes,
thaw out.
It will.
Okay.
Sometimes I put it under my apron belly, like between my belly and my fupa.
I have never heard of that term until I met you, and I was like, "Baby, have you heard of this term?" And he was like, "No, I don't think so." But instantly knew what it meant, which is
it's like a belly that hangs down.
Because you fold the apron usually when you're tying it, right? Is that the deal? Okay.
I guess. I don't know. But so before TikTok was a thing, I didn't realize there was an official term for it either.
Oh.
And now I know that there's an official term for it, and it makes me feel less. It makes me feel more comfortable about les aprons. I don't know any French words.
Oh my
god!
god!
But I do.
Les aprons. No, that's beautiful.
I had a whole morning of talking to my hamster Kona in a French thing.
And kudos to France. They decided to go with the further left leaning instead of the further right leaning, which is great news because everybody thought the right wing of France was going to win the elections, and they did not. Ha ha,
yeah.
Bitches. And it was super, super anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric this election from the French right wingers. Right ringers.
Right ring.
Yeah. So I probably don't want to stick that vape in my ass though after that video you sent me about gay men and food poisoning.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because
I thought it was funny because you and I always talk about ass to mouth
clean
fever.
your asshole.
But it's true. Listen, you are never going to be 100% bacteria free in any part of your body.
And you honestly shouldn't be because some of that bacteria is there for a reason.
Right. But what was the bacteria that one of the people referenced?
I don't know, like squiggly or something, sagalia or something. I don't know.
We used to be interested in teaching you things. Now we're just interested in fucking off. So
but it's so funny. I hadn't seen that video. You and I talk and text more than we and I don't put on my Instagram notifications because they drive me crazy because I'm all OCD about notifications on my phone. I have to clear them as soon as I see them. But I was watching it waiting to set up, and somebody hit me up on Grindr and asked me if I wanted to eat their dirty ass. And I literally, if I could figure out how to send that Instagram video via Grindr, I totally would have.
You just have to copy the link. Click on the little
No,
arrow.
Grindr doesn't let you place links in your messages.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, none of the fuck apps let you do that. You can, it gives you things in the profile now where you can list your Facebook or your Instagram or whatever, but you can't send.
But just the name of it, not the actual.
It lets you record live and disappearing videos or shit like that. I think if you have premium or something. I haven't had premium Grindr since I was a young boy.
I was a young boy.
Not that young, but I'm,
I know.
relatively
Grindr didn't
speaking.
exist then.
I know it didn't.
Neither did the internet.
That bitch. And milk
It
was
didn't exist for
milk
me when
was
I a
90
young boy
cents.
either. I had no internet as a young boy myself.
It's not the only thing you didn't have as a young boy. Yeah, that took you a minute. Unless you did, and I don't know, and I didn't mean to out you. I'm sorry.
It's funny. I had a pretty healing conversation with a member of my family recently where I was like, I made myself into a boy as a young child, right? And they were like, oh, this
Yeah.
makes sense. And I was like, yeah, look at the
I've seen the
psychology
proof.
going here.
Yeah.
There was a lot of psychology right there.
It wasn't until recently I realized, because obviously I follow Lady Bunny because she a hardcore leftist these days. Not that she wasn't always political, but I just realized that night we went out for Halloween that people, I think, thought you were Lady Bunny.
Oh, 100%.
That wig.
I was absolutely giving Lady Bunny.
You were. I mean, people
Yeah.
just kept stopping us because they thought you were like a famous drag queen, and I thought
They
this
did.
is
Yeah.
fabulous.
And it's funny because out of everybody, only one person thought, or knew, I should say, that I was not a drag queen, king queen.
Yeah. Well,
It's just a drag queen, for the record. A woman or femme presenting person dressed in drag as a female drag queen is still a drag queen.
right, of
But,
course.
like,
Yeah.
I've always said like drag king,
But
queen.
but
queen,
that
king.
wasn't. I feel like other than like Victoria and a few choice notables back in the day,
Right.
like that wasn't really a thing when we were doing that. And like now, like I mean, people feel all sorts of ways about this, but I think it's kind of fabulous. Like it's a character. You're creating characters, and like. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, and you had like major drag queen, like I mean you had like some Bianco Del Rio fucking voice on that night, and like it was just it was all sweeties and darlings.
For the record, in my head, I was giving Pickle Surprise.
Oh, no,
One
which
of the drag queens from Pickle Surprise. That was my intent, at least.
which is kind of
there's-
similar to Lady Bunny, like in all
True, yeah,
fairness,
yeah.
the over the top
For
hair.
people that don't know, go to YouTube and
my
type
God.
in Pickle Surprise, and then you will watch the most amazing commercial for a mayonnaise that has pickle in it, I guess. It wasn't really.
Therein
an
lies
actual
the
commercial.
joke.
You'll see. It's funny because my old roommate, I guess, worked with the guy or guys that created that fucking video. Like, what a weird full circle thing. How creepy is that?
Between that video and that fucking obnoxious song "Shoes," do you remember the YouTube?
Yeah.
Shoes. I remember there was like
that performer just performed Shoes recently.
No.
It just has made its way over the internet. Yeah.
hilarious. I mean, I love seeing a good like retro YouTube fucking moment for people, but
Yeah. I wasn't a huge like look at YouTube person, but the few YouTubes that came across my plate, if you will, were always ones that I'll remember forever,
yeah, those
like
we got a lot of miles off of Pickle Surprise.
Pickle Surprise,
I think we would just get high and just keep saying, but that's a surprise. That's a surprise.
Yeah, we would just be like, where's the pickle? That's the surprise. It was fun.
Oh my
That was a
God.
fun.
It was beautiful.
So that was what I was giving, but everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
One person,
we
though,
were
that
rocking
one
around New
guy.
York.
I remember that one guy that was like, "Can I put my head in, or can I no?" He worded it as, "Can I motorboat you?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, of course, because you're the only one that knows."
We should have charged for pictures. I mean, what kind of dumbass, starving New Yorkers didn't like
That
start?
was before the hustle economy in like
That's
that
true.
way was a thing.
That's true. That's true.
In generic public space, like of course if we were at
Oh yeah, if we were in
club or
Times
a
Square,
place
if we were in
where-
Times Square, although we would have got in trouble for not having a permit or something, because I think they all.
No, but like if we were in like a performance space, like a burlesque or a drag or something that would be normal to tip the person that you're that's performing
Our whole life is
whatever
a
they're
performance
performing.
space.
I was performing gender.
Oh, performing gender. Yeah. That was beautiful. I'm nostalgic. What can I tell you? New York City. We were
I know.
young,
You need to come back.
hung, and full of dumb.
Always full of dumb.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Yeah. So there you have it.
So how was your Pride month? Did you do anything Pride-alicious?
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Definitely did lots of pride related ish activities. It was the first time like for like the whole month like we tried to like watch like either one queer show or queer film every night of the month to
That's
celebrate
fun. I
them.
didn't know that you did that.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I mean, like a lot of the stuff we have our like come back tos every year. Like Priscilla is always going to be there, and they're about to make a sequel with the original cast.
No fucking
Yes,
way.
fucking way. After however many years, yes, the whole cast, all of them.
Is it coming to theaters or is this like a straight to streaming? Or
I hope not. I would consider like with all of the like. It's a cult classic, essentially, and gave birth to so much. Like, I
Okay, here's the deal. If that comes out in theaters and it's playing, someone that's listening needs to send me money so I can fly to Erin.
And we can watch it. That is so beautiful. Oh no, I would love that.
Seriously,
I would love that.
Holy yeah, sponsor and if you sponsor me going to Erin to watch this, I will send you an exclusive behind the scenes video of me getting ready for it, us partying, us having a great
such a
time.
great idea. Yes.
Yeah.
No,
but seriously, that would be super fun.
That would be
because you were the person
fun.
I watched it with.
I
for the
wonder
first
when
time.
I haven't. It's been. I think I read about it at the beginning of June. I haven't seen. I haven't followed up since then. But and it's too bad that they can't do like so. Tu Wong Fu we tend to follow up Priscilla with Tu Wong Fu. I mean, they came out very similar. Unfortunately, Patrick Swayze, R.I.P. They can't do like a reboot of that, and like we just watched that and it was like what a shame that he went so early, because he did a lot of fun things that like definitely were nostalgic of my childhood. Who doesn't.
I definitely forgot that he died, for the record. I cannot keep up with.
I'm sorry to be the one that tell you.
to tell me again.
Yeah.
No, it's not until people like it dawned on me, yes, that happened, but I don't know, for some reason my brain cannot store as much as it used to.
It's called aging, my love.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Okay, and also I think the amount of information that comes across our brains and eyes and everything every single day is too much.
Yeah.
Because we have access to so many different platforms, to so much different information and the highway that it gets to us. I'll have TV on with my cell phone in my hand, scrolling through TikTok, closing that out, going to Twitter, closing that out, going to news, there's so much to absorb every fucking day. Whereas, yes, also I'm aging. This isn't me excusing the fact that I'm aging and I'm not going to remember as much. But I think that before, we only had access to just a small amount of info throughout the day. And so it was a lot easier to like take a moment to digest said info. Sometimes it's hard. I'll read, Patrick Swayze passed away. And then 2 scrolls later, there's another monumental, one of my favorite hamsters online that I follow passed away or something, there's too much going on at once. So I don't have time to like fully digest. And I think that that's a big, recently I was like, why can't I remember all of the TV shows that I watch? A lot of these TV shows are very good and they're very, they have memorable moments. And it's not until I watch, I get to that memorable moment or whatever that I remember I even watched something. Sometimes I have to rewatch a whole fucking season to be like, I watched this before. And I think it's because 2 seconds later I'm putting on the next show and I'm indulging in that. And it's like, do we even know what we're reading, watching, enjoying anymore?
Yeah, our minds are becoming like this data dump, right? Like, and
it's so weird.
And so what I've tried to do as much as humanly possible is to kind of put some boundaries up with my information intake. I
Right.
get like an email from this news source called 1440. I think that's what it is. It's like the year the printing press was supposedly developed or whatever. And they send out, and the whole point is like you can read Associated Press or whatever, that's also good for like a fairly non-biased kind of new, like I don't like what do you call it, like editorializing in my news. I just want to hear what happened.
Right.
I
Right.
just want to think about it myself first before anybody starts telling me what to think about it. So I kind of like do everything. I read my little 1440 email every day, and it's cute. It has like, and there's so few things that have this, and this is speaking to all the stuff that we get pounded with all day long. It gives you the headlines. It has like, a small sports section. I like it because one of few places that still like give information about soccer, and I would think with like soccer like really ramping up in this country, more things would let you know, but it has that. And then it has this really cute thing called Humankind, which is like a section of all these headlines of like really beautiful human stories of things people have done nice to each other instead of the hateful things people
Oh,
have done to each other.
I love that.
It is. And then it has like a little this day in history thing, which I always like. It'll tell you, who was born and, who passed away or like what great event happened on that day. So I like it. But that's about all the information outside of everything else in the world that I can deal with in a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me
I
that.
think you know what? That's a good suggestion. I think I need to put up a boundary for myself because lately I've put up a boundary of like how much I will speak to people
Yeah. You'll have to
throughout my
sometimes.
day because it's just, I'm sorry, but there's no way that I can give the energy I think that you deserve
Right.
to every single person that might come my way. So
Yeah.
I like break it off into chunks. So I think that's a good idea for the information I'm consuming too. It's like
Yeah.
I need to actually give my brain time to let it absorb the thing,
Mhm.
whether it's a TV show, whether it's a piece of news, whether
Sure.
it's a tragic moment, whatever it might be. I need to give myself the time instead of just moving on to the next thing. So I think that's a good suggestion, is like give myself a limit of how much
Yeah.
I'm going
I mean,
to consume a day.
look, and this is me again after a bazillion years of therapy, but it took me a long time to like filter in and like really like live the idea that boundaries are not a bad thing, that boundaries are
Right.
like really important for your own self-care, right? We want to be there for everybody, and some activist friends of mine and people that would like doing movements, we always have that conversation like, it's great, everything you're doing is great, but when are you taking care of yourself?
Yourself. Yeah.
Because if you're completely exhausted and emotionally unavailable, you're not going to be able to do a lot for that movement. You really have to.
I do think that a big piece of why people do that is self-sabotage in a way. It's so much easier to help other people than it is to work on yourself. It's harder to face yourself in the mirror than it is to help somebody that's struggling, or to give your energy or time to something that you find more worthy because you maybe are feeling less than, or feeling like you're undeserving. So I think that that's a piece of it that we don't talk about often, is people are always like, well, when do you take time for yourself? And I'm like, I'm not saying activists, I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, no, for sure.
There's a lot of people that don't want to take, like they know they need it. They
Yeah.
absolutely should make that time.
Yeah.
But then the quiet begins,
Yeah.
and the noise stops, and then you're faced with the reality of who you are and how you're feeling about yourself and where you are in the world,
Sure.
and all of those
Sure.
truths that are tough to face on a
Yeah.
regular basis if you are struggling in some kind of way, whether it's depression, whether it's just general disdain for what you have going on, whatever it might be. It's so much easier to put that aside and be like, hey friends,
Absolutely.
hey 5 friends I don't have time for, truly, let me give you all of my time instead.
No,
I think
absolutely.
it's a way for us to avoid our own truth.
No,
Kinda sucks.
it's yeah. I mean, but we get it, right? Like, think of the world.
No, of
Most
course.
people are
I
struggling.
mean, it sucks in a way where I want to help everybody.
Oh,
too,
sure.
but again, that's because I don't want to help myself.
Sure. No, for sure. And unfortunately, I think people end up cycling through either friendships or things that they want to be involved in a lot quicker because they don't take that space. You know, when you see like a heavy turnover, you know, in like movement organizing or any of these things, you know, I'll often just hear it's burnout, you know, and then it either they get back to it or for a few years or they don't. And, you know, obviously like that sucks if you know, we're so burnt out you feel like you can't get back to it, you know, but it's tough work and the world is very depressing. It's very difficult to make ends meet in this world these days, you know, so people have a lot going on and it's easy to distract yourself and not sit with yourself. But, you know what I do. I always say, hey, none of this is my fault. This is the fucking world we were given. So I have to do my best to try to live happy because it only hurts me when I don't, you know? And I think that's hard. Happiness is a choice. It sounds very privilegey, but it's also making best of wherever you're at, unfortunately. So, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, there's so many things going on and like, you know, this fucking jackass. You know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping that this is the last election we think old white men are viable candidates for anything. And I don't mean this in an ageist way. I mean this in come the fuck on.
I think even the people that, aside from like truly brainwashed that swath of America, I don't think anybody is sitting back right now thinking, yeah, this is it.
No,
you know, because
I
even
agree.
even the older voters are not, you know, they're looking around at their peers and they're thinking, I wouldn't want you to be my president. So why am I voting for somebody even older than you and even like with less faculties
like, would you want your angry racist grandpa at Thanksgiving dinner to become president? I don't think you would.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, you know,
I'm not saying.
I don't think a lot of people are like, Genocide Joe. Yeah,
oh my God, that
let's
term is
do
so
it. Unfortunately, that's, you know, we don't have many options here. So it's just one of those like depressing
it's true.
And that we're looking at.
This lesser evilism politic has ruled
so sick
the day.
Of it. I would love to see a true election where it's not like, well, this is this and this is this.
Yeah.
And this, with lesser of the two evils. Like, what are we doing?
No, it's, I mean, like, this is probably the unpopular opinion. And I don't mean it in a feasible way. Like, I definitely don't think a Trump presidency is a good thing by any means, but perhaps, at least on the electorate side, we'll like be able to imagine a point where we're not in this position anymore, where like we don't feel like these are our only options, you know? Right. It's, I mean, whatever. We've talked about it a million times. It's heinous. But like, you know, people should focus, especially if that god awful thing happens. Actually, it's god awful for either of them. Let's be real. But like, one is definitely god awful.
What is that new thing that he's trying that they're going to put into place? Project 2025.
Right.
Yeah, Project 2025, which is, it's all conservative, back to the family, like totally misogynist, racist,
clearly
absolutely
in response to the critical race theory
homophobic
stuff.
Transphobic. It's all, it's like,
it's an old school playbook platform, right? You know.
Yeah, it's giving, never mind, I'm not going to say what it's giving, but you can probably guess where I was going to go with that. Let's just not do that. That would be great.
Yeah. In the interim, I would like strongly encourage people to like not use the time to get discouraged. Use the time to participate locally as much as you can. Make the immediate world around you as safe and inclusive and caring and human as possible, you know? And we have to think about that, you know? We have to think about how we make sure all the things that like really affect us directly don't get corrupted by this ideology as well. Now, you know, we have progressive people on school boards and in local elections, people that don't put up for any of this nonsense and this anti-trans behavior. And we just, going back is such a, I think it scares people so much, especially people that have worked on these issues for decades and really did have a feeling that things were improving, you know. But I also think it's a cautionary tale. You never have to stop fighting. Like, the struggle is always going to be there. There's always going to be somebody that is going to be banging at the wall looking for cracks, you know, and we have to be diligent. You have to speak up. You know, I think my biggest PTSD is after Trump was like elected the first time, seeing like so much out loud and open racism and homophobia and xenophobia, you know, especially in New York City. It was truly terrifying listening to the shit people felt they could say now.
Emboldened to say.
Emboldened, you know, and people don't think about that. You know, it's not just about what that man does or doesn't stand for. It's about what people feel entitled to when you elect somebody like that.
Yeah, just and that's in New York. I mean, just go to a place like South Carolina, and every single other bumper sticker is just has something about gender or bathrooms, or I'm like, you are obsessed. You are fucking obsessed with the communities that you probably like have a secret, like it's not a secret obsession, it's an overt obsession, but like you're covertly really intrigued, you know. It's just this weird, you know, thou doth protest too much.
Sure. Well, and like you mentioned pride, and I will say this has been a shaky pride season. Parades have been canceled. You know, the rhetoric and, you know, definitely the stuff around Palestine and Gaza have like created a very, just be safe. If your pride hasn't happened yet, be safe, be aware. I definitely think you all should go and you should fight to keep your pride marches alive, you know. And what I'm hoping, especially after this year, some people see that reclaim pride and all the counter pride movements and protest marches have some validity when we look and see what's going on out there. You know, we have to stand in solidarity for all oppressed and kind of people that are under attack right now, you know. And I don't think it's a tough issue. I think, unfortunately, there's a heavy level of long and institutionalized propaganda with some of these issues, so they're very easy for people to stir up and make problems for. And unfortunately, they are preying on generations of misinformation, so it's really hard to kind of understand what's going on in the world. Follow the money is always a love's answer. See what's going on. You know,
I'd love to follow the money myself.
Yeah. I mean, and
so my pride was pretty boring. I didn't like do anything for it.
No,
but I did work a show.
Nice.
That I helped book. Which I didn't advertise, but I did help book it. It was an all women's wrestling show, and it was for Queer Punk Outlaws, and it was super duper fun. And I did not book myself as the main event, but I was the main event. And by I mean the wrestlers. But I helped with like the storyline and the whole thing, and it was fun. I had a great time, and I got to tell an entire crowd of queer people that they had nothing to be proud of during Pride Month, and I got all of the booze that I wanted.
That's beautiful.
I am the villain in
the ultimate heel
story. It was fun. I was like, you know, the crowd wasn't like a super wrestling crowd, so I had to make sure that they knew to hate me, and oh boy did they. Oh boy did they. It was awesome.
The footage I saw was amazing, and you did a fabulous job, and I love it because it's the first time I was like, because you and I were on a conference call for some other shit, and you had to take that call for like the planning call. So like I kind of like, it was kind of cool seeing you
were a part of it.
Switch your hats. No, it was I was listening like a chismosa, but I wouldn't say I was part of it. I didn't put out any spoilers, but No, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it had to do with the back end and the front end.
And remember,
I had a good
front to
time,
back.
and I think we told the story the way that we needed to, and everybody booed the shit out of me, and that makes me so happy, because there's been times in the past where I'm supposed to be getting booed and people still cheer me, and I get it. They're like, Felicia, big booby funny idiot, like, yeah, woo. But it's like, I'm heel,
Oh
please
my
boo
God, that's
me.
so
You're supposed to
funny.
be booing me. So they actually did, because I told them they were all gross. Yeah, I was like, I see none of y'all brought your hot girlfriends.
Oh wow.
Well, and like the two people I was wrestling, one's lesbian and one's bisexual or pansexual. I apologize, I'm unsure, but everybody in the ring was queer. Everybody in the ring was,
Beautiful.
women loving women kind of thing. And so it was fun. It was fun to play with. It was a
That's
fun
gorgeous.
moment. I've worked with both of them in the past, so we got to do a little thing about that.
Yeah.
Jordan was the opponent, and her and I got like mouth to mouth for me to tell her basically fuck off. It was cool. It was fun. I had a good time.
That's beautiful.
So,
yeah, I saw footage again. Amazing, so good.
I just want like queer storytelling in all my wrestling, because why wouldn't we want
Oh my
that,
God,
right?
it's so much better. I was like, I was developing this idea, thinking about like I wanted to write about queer soccer players. I'm like obsessed with soccer right now. I'm not gonna lie, but that aside. I actually read something about wrestling in my little 1440 thing. John Cena is retiring. Cena.
John Cena.
Cena. Right? Like that's a guy, right? He's an actor too, isn't he? Yeah. So he's retiring after 20 something years or something crazy.
20, yeah.
Yeah.
He's retiring next year.
Yeah, it's always
apparently.
I mean,
they all retire, and then you'll see them 5 years later or 3 years later or whatever.
Yeah,
like a special appearance that they get paid like $5 million for.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Like the Undertaker has retired 27 times.
Oh, you used to like that one, right? No, not the Undertaker.
Well, he's like Blue Lives Matter dude, and weird,
see, I don't ever know anything about that stuff. Actually, that's a really interesting conversation, because
I would like to not know those things, but it is good to know it, so that you don't support the shitbags.
No, totally, and it's really tough when you find that information. I still see people mourning or trying to figure out the relationship with like Woody Allen and shit,
right.
And it's always difficult, do you love the sin and hate the sinner? Wait. That's my reverse.
I always say it like this, I can separate the art from the artist if the art isn't just the artist.
That artist, yeah, that makes sense.
If I can't separate the art from the artist in an R. Kelly situation. R. Kelly's singing the fucking song. He wrote the fucking song. He's singing the song. I can't separate the two,
right.
But a movie that might have a shitbag in it, or a shitbag behind the scenes, or something like that.
Totally.
As much as I would like to say, I can't support that either. Maybe I'm not going to give it money,
right.
But also there was a whole fucking team of people that created that art.
Sure.
It's not just that one person, right?
Yeah. And then people get into the weeds with
tough.
that, right?
It's tough. Yeah,
it is tough. But I actually like your distinction, because it is a difficult thing. I would say the same thing when you're looking at a big piece, like a Woody Allen film. There's a bunch of people in it. They're delivering their performance in such a way. It's
right.
An ensemble thing. And frankly, Woody Allen is my least favorite part of every Woody Allen movie, because he's horrible.
I mean, and it's not to say that song production isn't a thing. I understand there's a whole team of people that also helped to create that song. But I'm listening to R. Kelly sing the song. Is what I'm trying
becomes
to say.
really
He's
hard
the main
to detach.
star of the show. If it's a one-man movie, and he's the shitbag, I'm not gonna be able to watch it because that's all I'm watching is
Yeah,
this
no,
shitbag,
no,
you know. So
I totally agree with you there. No, and
that's my own comfort. Other people consume how you watch. You know, who am I to judge that?
no,
It's hard.
sure. It is consume how you want. And it's like, look, you know, you're probably never going to not see or not buy enough tickets to ever hurt that person financially.
Right.
So, you know, but
Whereas something like a J.K. Rowling, like, let's all mutually stop spending money on Harry Potter trademark stuff.
I know. It's like when your actors are even basically telling you to, like, the actors in the films are like,
all those actors, like, we're good.
yeah.
We don't need the residuals. If it
Fuck
means to
you. We're
take
not going to
our
work with you.
empire down.
No,
Yeah.
totally. What a shame with that, I gotta say, you know. And it really shows, to me, it like also highlights that what I think is still a confusing division within the queer community over like trans rights and trans issues. And, you know, nobody has really, you know, there's been a lot of bandwagoning, but I don't think that there's been a lot of like true appreciation and solidarity with the struggle. I don't, you know.
I don't. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
And that's, you know, that's always like a complicated and difficult thing because, you know, who gets to have these discussions in our community? Like who's in, you know, you'll have like an HRC or whatever, which, you know, I've certainly spoken about having issues with in the past, but, you know, they can tell people to support certain things, but there's not ever really good campaigns on understanding our community. There does seem to be still a lot of like binary thought processes going on. It's either this or it's either that. And, you know, I feel like the younger generation is going to get this a little bit better than everybody else because I do think things like, you know, fluidness and non-binary and like pansexuality, like, you know, they're scaring, you know, older people. They're scaring Bill Maher. It's not that there's a heavier incidence of queerness in the world. It's just that the definition for younger people is a little bit more broad, I've always thought it should be. So, you know.
I am so into the new generation's like lack of giving a fuck.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, no, gender's fucking stupid.
It's fierce.
Sexuality.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm queer, but I'm not gonna pick one.
Yeah.
Why pick one? You know, I love that. I'm like, y'all are great. Like, I'm still, not that like, I don't know. I just feel like I would have been able to present differently and just navigate life differently if I was in that younger generation. I really do appreciate that.
You get to be a little bit more of a blank canvas than we're actually allowed to be, you know. And
absolutely, everything was so limited, and you know, when I was growing up, everything was, if I really wanted to dress masculine, which I did, I had to shop in the guys section of the store, and that's fine. But also, it's fine to walk into the women's section or the unisex section and actually see like boundary.
Oh yeah, there's a whole new line.
You know?
There's whole new lines of male lingerie when you go to the sex shops,
like,
and I think that's
these different things
fantastic.
That just like they totally just like, you know, they push out those boundaries. They blur the lines. They just it's. I love that. I want to walk into I just don't even want. Like, let's just make it all unisex. And, you know, I mean, I don't know. I love to see that there is a new definition of presentation. Absolutely. And it's the younger generation that's really holding it up.
Absolutely.
And I love that.
Absolutely. And let's be real. It's always the younger generation on some hand, you know, and that's what I wish people would keep in mind, especially when you see kind of the older generation at battle with the younger generation and thinking, oh, you know, we did this, why aren't you doing this, or whatever. Every generation has different needs. That's how this works.
There's two types of people. There's the people that fought for the changes that the younger generations now get to reap the benefits of, that are excited that they get to. And then there are the curmudgeons that decide that it's not okay that they're not struggling because we had to struggle.
Right.
And it's like, well, y'all weren't the ones out there protesting. Y'all weren't the
Mm.
ones fighting. You were just kind of sitting back and doing your thing. And that's okay. Not everybody
Of
is cut out
course.
to be
It's
on those front lines, but
absolutely.
it's also not your right to say
Sit down.
that we
Yeah.
we want you to struggle because we struggled. Well, guess what? All of your peers were out there fighting so that they don't have to
Yeah,
struggle.
it
And then
doesn't
the
make
next generation
sense.
struggles a little less, and then the next, why want the worst for the people that are in the same struggle as you? I don't understand
Absolutely.
that.
And this
Silly.
to me, this always ties back into kind of that consent-based culture conversation, and I'll tell you how. Because in like the kind of queer, I don't know, we're gonna get better at calling this the queer history journey or the queer coming of age journey, you're always told like rites of passage, whether it's like
Yeah.
having to deal with somebody that touches you without their permission, or somebody that puts you in a way or makes you think that it only looks like this or it should only be like this. I mean,
Grooming in general.
exactly. I will keep at this top or bottom culture thing until it doesn't exist anymore, because the reality is even that it's very segregating. It's such a thing that puts you and makes sex about identity, which it can be, but it's not always. Sometimes it's just about pleasure. And I don't like all of these things that really gatekeep what the younger generation is allowed to do. I mean, I find it absolutely horrifying when you see, you know, certain like news people or whatever talk about young people in this disparaging way, and when they're asked like, but you protested against Vietnam, or you protested against nuclear power plants, what do you conceive that they're doing wrong or that they're not entitled to? You know, you just look around and say the country's GDP is this, and the finances are all perfect, but you haven't really taken into consideration what the everyday struggles of people are and what people care
Right.
about. You know, maybe it would have been perfectly reasonable for nobody to care about like what was happening in Vietnam, and yet a generation chose to and felt very strongly about it. You
Right.
know, and I remember because I was in middle school for the first Gulf War, and I do remember the arguments come up time and time again. People are tying these yellow ribbons to trees and crap like that, and like, you know, if you weren't doing it, you know, and this cycle repeats itself. If you weren't doing, people considered you unpatriotic or un-American or on this, right? And the same thing happened with 9/11 with the fucking American flag craze and and follow the money trail, man. These things, and ironically, the majority of those flags were being made in China. So while you're
Right.
being patriotic, you're also helping boost some other country's economy that you said you're horrified about. So I think there's like, unfortunately, a lot of hypocrisy in the way that we look at these things, and people do want to make a big generation war stink. And I did think that was going to get better. You know, I do
Mm.
remember my parents being like, my parents, and of course I'm sure lots of parents didn't, but like the Gulf War feels like an oil war. Why do we want to do this? You
Right.
know, at least when, Vietnam, they were at least throwing the propaganda that like communism would spread, and we'd be all less free. Not true, but also
Right.
like, at least a better story to swallow than, well, they're not giving us their oil.
Right.
And I mean, I'm sure they said plenty of other things about like they tried to propagandize it, but I did think that we were going to be in a time where at least our parents, which, I have one parent that's a boomer and one that is not, and I look at that, and I'm very lucky that they were, for the most part, very like liberal, progressive leaning people. But you do look at them and you see them struggle with the Israel Gaza issue because they've spent their whole life. I mean, when my parents were kids, Jewish individuals were still not allowed in country clubs, you know?
Right, right,
So they spent years hearing a certain kind of thing, support, the state of Israel at all costs, support these kind of things at all costs. And if you didn't, you were, being anti-Semitic and all these things that are
right.
still being thrown around today, And
Yeah, they're conflating. Well, the news is conflating, anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism,
right.
and it's a huge problem. And I understand why the people that are only getting information through news sources aren't getting a clear understanding of what is actually going on. And
Yeah.
so, while I don't excuse their naivete, I also understand that, like, that's exactly, when we're talking about a 75-year-old person that is only getting their news from the fucking TV, I'm not surprised
absolutely.
that they're like, well, I don't know. No, you can't say that. You can't say free Palestine because that means it's like, okay, I get where you're getting your news from.
And right, because you also have, in general, and this is what I always tell people: if you want to know if your news is good, listen to see if they ask any follow-up questions or challenging questions about statements made. And we definitely saw with the news debate that there was no real-time fact-checking on anything. So CNN basically let a million lies be like said out loud for everybody to hear. So you are now complicit in the kind of propaganda machine of Trump, and that's not news. That's not journalism. It's just not. If you're not sitting there saying that's not true, sir, that's a problem,
Right.
And it's either that these journalists don't know it's not true, or that's not the agenda for that network.
Right.
We know for a fact.
I think it's funny that we started from the conversation of people, I guess, gatekeeping trauma or whatever. No, that's not the right way to say it. But
kind of.
Yeah, people gatekeeping communities if
Uh-huh.
you don't endure trauma is how I should say it.
Right.
Into this full circle, because it's so true though that this is a really scary reality on our mind right now.
Yeah,
Is
for sure.
as much as there's so many other things going on, and do we even have time or resources or money to care? It's like, well, what are we gonna fucking do?
Right.
What are we gonna do?
Yeah. I mean,
what are we gonna do? It's crazy. It's
I know, and it's funny.
We're fucked either way, but it's like, what level of fucked do we want to be? I don't know.
I mean, and that's always the joke. Look, I love that Jon Stewart is back on The Daily Show, because there probably isn't like a single human being relating the news right now that's doing it in an effective way. And it's certainly helpful for him that he's of Jewish heritage and he's able to speak, very succinctly and honestly and humanly about these issues. But also the critique, The Daily Show has always been a great critique of news shows at its heart, right? It loves to make fun of CNN because CNN is so make funnable, and fortunately we look at it today and, when Joe Biden got elected, there was a huge article about CNN being in a panic mode because their ratings dropped so much. And of course, they figured out, luckily for them, all this court stuff happened. And, I am really like conspiracy like this. I think CNN has a vested interest in getting Trump elected because it was really good for their news cycle. Not because Americans want Trump to be president necessarily, but because the fear mongering involved and the constant addiction to the news cycle, what's he going to say next, what's he going to do next, becomes that unfortunately crazy psychotic echo chamber of doom and gloom that gets created in the world, and CNN is entertainment. It's the liberal version of Fox News. It literally, in studies, most of CNN's content comes off of what Fox News is saying. So that's your echo chamber of information. Fox News says something that's not true. All of a sudden, CNN is talking about it, and they're helping propel the lie. That's how it works, folks. But, it's funny. I saw this joke, I don't remember where, but it was basically, every time this happened when George Bush Jr. became president twice, a bunch of liberal Democrats. I'm moving to Canada. I'm getting out. And, you see it ramping up already. And I thought it was really kind of weird that 2 seconds after this presidential debate, CNN and all the commentators on it and oh man, I want to remember his name. No, fuck it. He's not worth my time. But the reality is immediately after the debate, they all were like, fuck Joe Biden. This is horrible. They immediately abandoned ship. And these are people who have been propagandizing since the beginning for Joe Biden. So what has changed? He's been like a babbling old fucker like the whole time. This man was never a very good public speaker. If you see Senate floors, he speaks fiercely, but he doesn't speak well. He speaks like an angry
He's
old
fucking
bitch.
81 years old, man. When I'm 81, I hope I'm asleep. Like, I hope I am
at a beach. Fuck that.
I want Cool Whip. I want
Cool Whip.
I want pistachio flavored things.
Oh my god.
And I want pistachio flavored. I want a beach because it's warm. Maybe a desert. I don't know, but I do not want to be working. So what are we doing? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
sorry. I'm not trying to be ageist, but
at this point,
no way that we don't all agree that 81 retirement age is 65. What are we doing at 81? Trying to work for 4 more years. What are we doing?
Well, and let's be real. If you're 81, how in touch of the needs of everyday working people are you actually, or can you possibly be?
And you have a lot of money. You don't need more money. You just go home.
Well, you spent like your whole life in
all
politics.
Of them. Yeah. Just take a nap. Go to bed.
Take a nap. Go to bed.
Just go watch soap operas and go to sleep.
Go play with your dogs that bite everybody.
Go and honestly, I all of that was a joke, right?
Right. Sorry.
My point is, you should be enjoying the rest. Like your poor wife. Jesus.
The problem is
you gotta work for the next 4 years.
If you compare our country to other like developed countries, we're heavy on the old fucking men docket. And then what that just translates to me is you're not actually a good representation of the country. The people that run this government do not represent the spread of like people living here, I
just think if you have to be 35 to be a president, you also should be under 75 to be a president.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It doesn't make sense. We're saying you have to have this much life experience. Well, guess what? You have to have this much brain space left.
Sure.
As well.
Well,
I think it has to be on both sides of the coin. I don't know.
Again,
I sound ageist, but I don't give a shit.
But
80 is not working age. You should be asleep.
It's not. And here's the thing. Despite like a real cognitive medical problem, cognitive decline is a part of age. We were joking about it earlier. Like it just is, It doesn't mean you're going to have Alzheimer's like tomorrow, but it does mean that your ability for your mind to keep up with multiple things or store multiple things is losing its capacity a little bit, And that's okay. Let's celebrate that in a different way than making you president. Okay.
Right. I know I apologize a lot because I'm so nervous that somebody's going to misunderstand when
I'm the first person to call out ageism.
Yeah, but this isn't even. Call me ageist if you want, but this isn't even like you just said. If you break it down scientifically, 81 isn't the most spry, and to sign on for another 4 years of major decisions.
It's intense.
Nuclear codes, the things that we always say. People joke all the time. Oh, I don't want a woman in charge because she'll nuke a fucking. Oh yeah, okay, fine. We can make that joke, but guess what? I also don't want somebody that, we at that age we're typically getting assistance for.
Sure.
I'm not saying every 81-year-old person needs assistance. Okay, one of my grandparents, step grandparents, just turned 90. She can play tennis for 5 hours a day. Like,
Sure.
I get it, but it doesn't mean that I think that she would be the best one to make decisions about something really
Well,
serious
and,
either,
and
you know?
let's be real. In the corporate job America at large, if you go in for a job interview at 81, you may be protected by federal laws, but we know they're not hiring you.
Right.
You know,
You
so
know?
if we're all dealing with that kind of like age reality, I don't even want to call it age discrimination. I'll say age reality, and it becomes, you know, something that needs to transfer to all aspects. Otherwise, it does create again this unfairness
Right.
in access. And there are other countries that have young, vibrant lawmakers. This country had the old people here have held on to power for so long because they do it through money and influence. It was definitely a fluke that somebody like AOC got into Congress. She was up against an old school, well-funded establishment Democrat. I think it was Peralta or something like that. And, you know, a local to the community I was living in Queens. And, you know, there needed to be a change. You can have somebody that supports all the same things as you, but you need somebody that does more than support it. You need them to start driving action for a change in the future, like taking political risks, listening to constituents instead of like corporations, things like that. So I say all that, you know, and again, I'll bring it back to don't get frustrated. Organize locally. It's organizing politically on the federal level is a very frustrating thing to begin with because you don't often get to see things happen. It's a long game, and I respect everybody who's in that long game, but I do think maybe we wouldn't be in this long game if we had focused locally more. And I think that needs to happen. You got to take care of the people in your community. You got to make sure nasty shit isn't happening to your neighbors based on discrimination or anything like that. So, you know, I'm hopeful because I do think, again, kudos to the young people. Y'all are fierce. You're not putting up with shit. They have like dragged you now through the news cycle for fucking months now. And really, the youth have been absolutely dragged because that's how afraid those old white men are of you getting power. So keep at it, because like the more they drag you, the more you know that you're making an effect. So
yeah, I tried so hard to find a way to switch this conversation to sexual,
hey, we needed to
and
talk about it, you know.
oh no, I'm just saying, like, at the end of your thought, I was trying to come up with a transition and I couldn't. So for the record, I was trying and I couldn't. Let's talk quickly about that Hawk Tua girl. Have you seen
What's that?
the wild? Oh, okay. So there was this that, you know, people interview people on the streets and they put it online. There was this guy that did an interview on the street and was like, what's one thing that'll keep your man around for a long time or something like that. And this very like blonde, just like girl next door kind of pretty girl answers, and she's like, oh, you gotta Hawk Tua, you know, put some spit on that thing or something like that.
Wow.
And she's now become like a viral sensation. It's funny because a lot of people in the queer community are like, that's so boring, and how is that not just vanilla? And then a lot of people in like the straight community are like, you know, jizzing their pants over this girl who says she spits on dick, which is, you know, it's like step one. I don't know. But it's funny, but she's gotten super famous off of it, and now everybody, like, there's tons of memes and all of that. So my question to you is, are you a Hawk Tua girly, or are you a gag on it till it gets wet girly?
Okay, full disclosure, the latter. But
Yeah,
also if it's like a getting it wet kind of situation for like penetration afterwards, I used to be like completely satisfied with like a nice gagged wet dick. Lube has changed everything in my
now
world.
you're lube. Well, this was this was blowjob specific.
Oh yeah, blowjobs. Yeah,
understandable about. I was the same. I was a spit all the way, and now I like when I'm doing myself in the butt, I gotta lube it up. I have to.
Yeah, no, and again,
So you gag on the dick to get the dick wet. Because
yes,
for me,
yes,
I don't know why, but like I don't just have, unless like I just sucked like a sour candy, I don't just have like an abundance of spit in my mouth. I don't know, and I'm not trying to like
no.
chortle or whatever.
Bitch, I
to,
smoke
like,
a lot of
that's
weed.
disgusting.
The only
Yeah,
option is
exactly.
fucking.
We have dry mouth, so I feel like there's two categories. There's people that have the spit in their mouth that they can just hawk to a,
and people
and then
that
there's
don't.
the people that need to shove it down their throat, and then it like rains spit.
Yeah,
You know?
no.
You gotta gag yourself to get the spit.
Well said. Yeah.
That's me.
That's
I'm a gagger, not a hawk to a.
Hawk to a gagger. Yeah. Also, I gotta tell you, this aesthetically, I've never liked it when somebody is blowing me, and I'm not like a big fan of like. I've had guys like spit in my hand, like you're
Yeah.
both jerking off, and I like spit and nasty kinky sex and stuff, but something about hawking a loogie, I was like,
Well, not a loogie.
well, okay, fine, not a
That has
loogie.
snot
Okay,
in
sorry,
it.
not
Nobody's
a not a
putting
loogie,
on
but
your
like,
dick. Well,
but
they might be.
that's what reminds me of when people go,
Agreed.
it reminds
agreed.
me of that.
Thank you. Agreed.
and
And there's no guarantee that somebody isn't doing that.
yeah,
So
that doesn't
I
make
agree.
me wet, literally and metaphorically. So,
Agreed. I'm not a huge fan of just that, because for some people it's just spit. For
Yeah.
other people is nasal passage nonsense.
I'm
and,
not a
you know,
spitter or a quitter. Okay.
yeah. Right. Same.
Exactly. Oh.
I miss my old self sometimes. I think about being like 19, 20 and just,
Being filthy.
you're
Yeah.
just a different type of whore. I do miss that. But at the same time, it's like I graduated on to
Yeah. Well, I think, it's
the next level of whoredom.
right, the next level of order. And desires change, and like you do things and you want to do something different. I think that's all fair. I see people as they're aging get depressed about not having the same whatever that they had younger sexually, and like you can have different things and they can still be exciting. You
Yeah,
gotta
it's not
meet yourself
libido.
where you're at.
It's more, for me, it's not libido, but it's more of like sense of abandon. Like I was
Oh, for sure.
I was okay not knowing if I was gonna make it out alive.
Yeah, no shit. But that is interesting. I mean, I definitely miss unencumbered, no time clock or whatever kind of sex encounters where you just fuck for days and enjoy yourself. And
Oh, see, I didn't mean that. I meant like truly if I was going to make it out alive, because
because you're a
or-
scary fucking whore.
or,
Yeah. I mean that with affection, of course.
yeah, I was a little rough and tumble. Yeah, that's why I'm missing part of my jaw. So let's be for real right now.
I rue the day that my jaw doesn't do what I want it to anymore. It's still faring pretty well.
Yeah, mine doesn't. I don't have quite the opening.
I don't know.
that used to.
I can still unhinge that shit like a snake.
Yeah.
We're good.
I wish I'd eat a lot more.
Wow. Only at the screw do you get a little bit of screw with a little bit of politics. It's all the same screw. Let's be real.
All the same screw. Well, sex is political, so.
Amen. And personal. Impersonal is political, and political
Listen,
is
politics, not even all of that, but also politics dictate the way that we have sex, and they always have. So
Absolutely.
let's not pretend like they don't. They do.
I want to fuck like a revolutionary always. That's my goal.
Like the Revolutionary
I mean,
War.
come on. I just feel like revolutionaries, they're filled with like passion and like gusto. Like, I mean, it depends on the kind of revolutionary, right? Not a right-wing revolutionary or an autocrat. Although there are probably some pretty kinky scenes with like a Stalin-esque like type, but
Jesus Christ almighty.
Anyway, thank you for
I
joining.
never thought you'd be canceled before I'd be
I know.
canceled.
Thank you for joining the Screw Podcast. We may not be here next week, but
If we go underground, we'll have to just use our Patreon.
yeah, there we go.
Oh, Lord. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Screw.
Thanks. We missed you all, and
let us know in the comments. There's not a comment section. Okay, wait. This is uploaded on YouTube too. If you are listening on YouTube,
fuck yeah.
let us know in the comments. Are you a hawk to a girly, or are you a gag till you drench it girly?
Oh, I like.
Or sorry, I'm not trying to say everybody that listens is a girly.
Or everybody that gives head is girly. You may be.
Right.
You may not be.
No, I wasn't saying any of that. Are you a hawk to a person, or are you a gag until you drench it person?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Okay. I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, me too.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.